Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. Getting ready to go over this main slate at DraftKings. Hopefully, we can help you out. If we do, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and come check out everything we have to offer in Patreon. Giving out our picks for NBA, MLB, UFL, MMA, and of course, when NFL rolls around, that too. Over on Patreon, just $5.99 for the month gets you access to all of our top plays, all of our advice, and of course, our Discord. So take advantage of that. But obviously, right now, we're going to break down the slate for the DraftKings main slate. Got quite a few games here, lots of injuries to keep in mind. And of course, the season's winding down. So some good old fuckery is certainly to be in order. But the way we do it, position by position, we go, highlighting the top plays, trying to factor in matchups, ownership, and all that fun stuff, and hopefully pointing you in the right direction. So up top, SGA does come in with the best point guard projection. Not so sure he's super necessary, carrying a little bit of ownership, and he has 11.4K against the Lakers. My sense is that OKC is going to be out to send a message after getting stomped on by the Lake Show in the last game. But however you want to play that, the reality is SGA is not cheap, and there are a lot of options to consider on the slate. Namely, Giannis is probably looking like the top pay up. So what is your priority level with SGA? And if you don't want to go after him, what point guard are you liking the most?
I don't mind SGA, but it's always a stacked position. He's expensive. We have value thanks to injuries like Donovan Mitchell's out, so Darius Garland's going to look really good. Siakam's questionable. Halliburton could be good again. They're playing the Wizards also, which is nice. And then there's a lot of cheap stuff. So I think SGA is a good play. I don't expect them to get curb stomped again, so he should be fine. But on a big slate, pretty expensive SGA, not a priority for me, probably.
Yeah, kind of weird that he's actually picking up a little bit of ownership. Josh Giddey does look good in theory. The Cavs are not a friendly matchup. It's in Cleveland as well. That game has a steep 14-point spread. Like in theory, he's a good tourney play here. A little bit weird that he's picking up some ownership as well. I think if you're going to play a guy who's going to pick up a little bit of ownership, I would look at Hallie first at 9.1K. But of course, the best play here, and that's just relative to the price because 9.1K isn't nothing. But the best play is Darius Garland. No Spida. He's going to be really chalky, but he projects extremely well. He's really in competition for the second best projection at the position tonight. So he's just a better play than Luka or Giddey, and really probably a better play than SJ too, even though he has obviously way better ceiling. So Garland looks awesome. You said Hallie, he looks good. Probably for Siakam to be out, but nothing wrong with that. Ty Jerome for value. I am looking at the Nets a little bit here, so stop me if I'm way off track. But Reese Beekman at 4K. I mean, they're without like a ton of guys here. Let's see, count them up. They have no D'Lo, no Keon, no Melton, no Cam Thomas. So something called a Tyson Etienne got 32 minutes in the last game, and Reese Beekman, 4K, got 36 minutes in the last game, and it was actually pretty darn good. So it looks like the Nets just don't give a shit, and they're going to roll out a bunch of sad sacks. What's your interest level there with the cheap Brooklyn guys?
It's pretty high, mostly in Beekman. Assuming he's going to start again at point guard. The minutes were very high in the last game, like you said. Good matchup against New Orleans as well. So not a comfortable play, not a very good per minute producer historically, but also a pretty small sample. He's 4K. They're like super bare bones. They still have 11 guys who can play, so they're not like out of players, but seems like he's a pretty safe bet for minutes, assuming he starts again. So chalky Beekman, not a must play, but certainly a good one.
Yep, agreed. I do like him quite a bit
already. On the high end, I think Trae Young's a pretty good play. Orlando against high usage guards is not a very good defense without Jalen Suggs. Atlanta overall, not a great spot. Certainly Orlando is still capable defensively, but I like the pay-ups from the Magic and then running it back with Trae Young at no ownership in his awesome form in what could be a fairly high-scoring game. I think is pretty interesting tonight.
That is interesting. Coming in at 1.48% owned. So obviously sub 10% ownership for 10.1K Trae is certainly a possibility. So I'm with you there as far as GPPs go. It's overall though, like all the other Hawks are kind of priced up. Like Trae himself is kind of priced up. Not really the best spot. The Hawks only have a 110.5 implied total. I don't know. I think I'm not really eager to play Trey, but I understand wanting to do so in GPPs. Like realistically, Halliburton's $1,000 less, better projection. Garland's way cheaper, better projection. Like just better spots too. Obviously, Garland gets the Bulls, Hallie gets the Wizards. The issue with those two, though, obviously, is the Pacers are massive 19-point favorites at home against Washington, and of course the Cavs. I don't know. I wanted to say Guardians, baseball and NBA, man, mixing it up. But the Cavs are 14-point favorites, like I said before, and whereas the Hawks are only 4-point dogs. So you could factor that into the equation and kind of just lean into that game being closer, whereas those games could be absolute bloodbaths. What about like the mid-range down here? Like Jose Alvarado, if healthy against the Nets, I guess he'd be in play, but 6.5 feels a little bit high. Ty Jerome already mentioned 4.5. Bub carrying it 5-6 against the Pacers. If that game stays close, he's been playing monster minutes and he's been hitting. I think Jordan Poole is back, which would not be ideal. Yeah, he is active here. So not super ideal, but they're like giving a long leash to just a couple of guys like Bub and AJ Johnson. So I don't hate it. I think the 5-6 here is a decent price, especially if like you don't want to play Reese and Reese is super chalky. Just go up a little bit more and go get somebody like Carrington, who's been crushing, by the way.
Yeah, he's played over 40 minutes in 2 of the last 3, so it seems like they're really ramping him up with the season about to wind down. So I think it's okay. Not amazing, though. They are huge underdogs, like you said. There's a lot of risk of complete systemic failure for the Wizards in this game, just like there always is. But he's okay. I assume better value will open up because it's a pretty big slate at the end of the season. So he's fine. I just think Ty Jerome is a value play I feel a lot better about.
Yeah, 4.5K Ty Jerome against the Bulls. Obviously off the bench, wouldn't really have to worry that much about minutes limit if the game gets out of hand. We still do have the Bucks guys, 4.8K KPJ and 5K Ryan Rollins. I mean, pick your poison. One of them's probably going to wreck. The other one, maybe not. Last game, they both smashed, but that was without Giannis. I think with Giannis back, I'd really only go with one, obviously. Right now, my lean is Rollins because I'm assuming he would start, but if a lot of ownership's going to go to one of them.
Play whoever's lower owned. Like every time there's one of these guys is owned, the other one goes off. And that's
literally what happens every single time.
Yeah, so if Rollins is starting and more popular, then just play Porter instead.
Yep, absolutely. Also, who's I looking at here? Peyton Pritchard, 6.5K is definitely steep, but the Celtics have like every guy on the injury report today. So if they are without like Porzingis and Tatum and Jalen, and it's just Pritchard out there, I think 6.5K would not be too expensive to invest in him, and you can slide him over to shooting guard. If that suits your fancy. Any other punts down here at point guard that you're feeling?
Giddey's questionable. A bunch of guys. Herter is out. Kobe White is out. I think THT, if Giddey is out, is going to probably become a priority. Just a good per minute guy. He's cheap. The minutes should be there. He hasn't been playing really a lot lately. But if Giddey's out, they're going to need someone to handle the ball, and I think it'll probably be him. So he would probably become a priority punt at that point.
Yeah, 3.8K for Horton Tucker here. Wish he was small forward eligible like he has been in the past, but still, that would be a pretty darn good value for sure. And just in general, the Bulls are going to be potentially super shorthanded. So definitely circle back to Chicago and see who is starting. Over at shooting guard, Anthony Edwards leads away with, holy hell, a really low projection against the Bucks here. Edwards, I swear, every time I even consider Edwards, because he's never owned anymore, he just completely face plants. He has a ceiling, and he's not going to be owned, so there's that. But he projects not great. Same with Desmond Bane, 8.3K for Bane. I think that's okay. I think he's certainly looking like a better play than Ant. Austin Reeves is on the injury report. But we didn't even touch on Luka. Luka's questionable, by the way. So Luka and Reeves are both on the injury report, I think. If one of them missed, then the other –
right?
Yeah, and LeBron. So if one or two of these guys are out, whoever's in is going to look great. The matchup with OKC is obviously not good, but they smashed in this matchup the other day. I personally think it's going to go the other way. Like, it's not going to go well this time. But they would be in play. Like, if there's no LeBron, Luka would suddenly look like a really good spend. And so would Austin Reeves, really, at 8.8.
Yeah, I mean, anytime one of those guys is out, the others are going to naturally stand out. It is a horrible spot against Oklahoma City, and I'm not expecting them to shoot the complete lights out from three like they did over the weekend, but still the usage is going to be so high. Like if it's two of the in, one out, or one in and two out, then just play those that are playing. If it's all three in, though, I'm just fading them and not really worrying about it, though.
Yeah, that game also has a 16-point spread, which tells me, well, obviously OKC is like
someone's
going to
sit if it's a 16-point spread.
Yeah, someone's sitting. So I actually feel like, okay, if you just like want to put it in a vacuum, if LeBron is out, if any one of those guys are out, you absolutely can play the other dudes based off of usage and ceiling. But I feel like it'd be a trap. Like OKC is very good. They're especially very good defensively. I don't really envision the Lakers doing that again or anything close to it. So while you could certainly play the guys that are in there, I don't think I'm going to be doing that personally.
Maybe it'll be LeBron and Luka out so they can let Austin Reeves cook in his home state or something like that, like he did in that.
Yeah, maybe, but then it's OKC, so he could go out there and shoot like over 10 and they lose by 40. So it just feels bad.
If it is just Reeves by himself, 8,800 is kind of steep. So not an auto play, but still would be a pretty good play.
100%. So, and honestly, shooting guard sucks. So, like, if it was Reeves there, like he would just like skyrocket to be by far the best shooting guard play, even in a brutal spot. Dyson Daniels, 8K feels like a lot against the Magic. He's just a rock solid player, but I don't want to do that. 8.7 Jalen, no. Bob Carrington already talked about. Mikal Bridges with Brunson back, 5.6. Like that's a good price.
5.6. Like that's a really good price on him.
It is a good price. But it is Boston, and Brunson is back. So, like, it's almost like he was dropped back down to where he fucking should be. Like 5.6. Because he gets a ton of minutes. He doesn't do anything. He never does anything.
Bad position, though. Like, would you rather play him or Bub Carrington? Like, I feel like Bridges is a slightly better play, but
I'd rather punt this position entirely, and hopefully Horton Tucker allows me to do that. Sure, Dalen Terry possibly 3.5K against the Cavs here. Like, obviously the matchup sucks, but if everybody's out, Dalen Terry could get like 35 to 40 minutes, even if it goes south, which it certainly would. Bruce Brown at 5.1. Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, if somebody misses, most notably Siakam, they would just get a little bit more usage their way. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, where do you go besides punting? It's like none of the studs up top are really very, appealing here. But we could go down.
Too bad Franz Wagner lost his shooting guard because
he would be.
Yeah,
he would be for position.
Sure. I think like Smith okay, Terry is okay, Strus without Mitchell is okay, AJ Johnson, like this Wizards trash. If Alvarado's out, Antonio Reeves would be a pretty intriguing value. Played a ton of minutes the other night without Alvarado.
Sure.
And the Pelicans are going nowhere, and the Brooklyn Nets on the other side are going nowhere either. So
you got this Whitehead.
Yeah, Derek Whitehead.
Yeah, I mean these guys are getting
guys
minutes.
Who are going to play like 25 or so minutes, and he's cheap. So I think he's okay. I would probably max to that cheap net situation. I just don't want to put all my eggs in the same basket there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you're rolling out a lot of lineups, I think the moral of the story here is shooting guard is like what we would do like in MLB with SP2. Like you lock in your number one pitcher and then like Glasnow or DeGrom and like they get just completely annihilated. But the reality is like you feel really good about certain plays, but a shooting guard, I just don't. So like shooting guard, I definitely think it makes more sense to punt and just rotate other options in there and then really just play different guys in that one slot and try to avoid shooting guards in the rest of your other guard slot and utility slot. Just don't play other shooting guards because it's not worth it. Just try to get that one right in some of your lineups if you can. Like you can play Edwards and Bane and obviously Reeves if those other guys are out. I just feel like that's not really a good way to go about this slate. I think that's kind of gross.
Fair enough.
All right. Small forward is a little bit better. Your boy, Franz Wagner, over there, 44-point fantasy projection. He leads the way. He is chalky, but a matchup with the Hawks will do that. Jason Tatum is a little bit expensive if everybody's in. If everybody's out and it's the Tatum show, he'd be way too cheap, and he'd look amazing at 10.2 in the Madison Square Garden. I could totally see them sitting everybody and he coming out and putting up like 60 real points there or something stupid. Obviously, LeBron is in play too. I would definitely prefer Tatum. If their situations were like normal, where everybody was there, I think Tatum is the better play. But if like Luka sits and LeBron's out there, I got nothing. I got no problem with that. Jay Will at 8.4. Not super excited to pay that for him. The projection is not very appealing. I guess Wagner is the play here up top, and then after that, I'm looking to save some cash here. Like nobody really stands out in the mid range. I guess if I had to pick one, it'd be Bruce Brown, just because the Pels are extremely shorthanded, and he's been getting good run. Does have a low floor though. And then we're going back to some of those same guys like Dalen Terry. I think you mentioned DeAndre Hunter. Not a bad play there. Maxwell Lewis, another net guy. It's gross, man. It really is. But those are the guys that we're looking at here after Wagner. If you want to pay for Wagner, he is a solid pay here against the Hawks.
Yeah, I think I prefer Banchero between the two. If I'm going to pay for one, I don't think playing them together is the worst idea, just because these positions, specifically small forward, doesn't have a whole lot to like. So Franz is okay.
He gets so much usage. Like they both approach like a 30% usage rate like all the time.
Yeah, Franz just doesn't have a super high ceiling with Banchero in. So between the two, I think Banchero is the one that's more likely to win you a slate than Franz is, especially if both are going to be into ownership. So I think I'm most likely just to play Banchero at power forward and then save money with whoever I'm not playing at shooting guard at small forward, like Keon Brooks for New Orleans. Antonio Reeves, I think, is also small forward eligible. You talked about Max Lewis, but getting the minutes, it seems. So Brooklyn without Keon and Cam Johnson and all the others, these guys are just viable punts, and there's not a lot else to like, so you might as well punt it. Strus and Hunter for the Cavs, perfectly fine. I think Anunoby, if you want to pay for a little less than Franz, is a pretty good play. Like the role's pretty stable. Even with Brunson back, looks like he's still going to get some usage. So I think that's fine. Josh Hart is always okay, but hardly a priority on this slate.
Yeah, it's definitely Wagner or bust for me here. I don't really want to pay for Wagner. There's other guys I want to pay for. So it is very much living down in the dumps with cheap Bulls and Nets for me. Over at power forward, this is a position I like, as I should. Giannis looks great. 12.6K feels steep, and the Timberwolves are not a good matchup, but he is their offense right now. He's basically a triple-double threat every time he goes out there without Dame, so you certainly can do that. Ownership feels a little bit low considering who he's been lately. He took the night off the other day, so he should be well rested. I like him a lot. Banchero's projection is not that far away from him. He's almost $3,000 cheaper, so I can see why he's getting ownership here. But I feel like Giannis is pretty interesting if Banchero's going to be like mega chalk here. I think Banchero's a really good play, but Giannis is certainly interesting there. And then another leverage play possibly on the Banchero ownership is Evan Mobley, 8-9 with no Spida. You know his usage is going to go up. You know the Bulls are a smash spot. A little bit worried there about the blowout for sure, but Mobley looks really good. So all three of those guys are in play. You can rank them however you want. Right now, when you factor in ownership, though, I think I go Giannis, Mobley, Banchero.
I think I would just rank them the opposite way: Banchero, Mobley, Giannis. Like, I understand the ownership's going at the cheaper ones, but the value's pretty shaky as of now. So 12-6 for Giannis against Minnesota with Gobert in there is just not that appealing. Like, I'm fully aware he can drop 20 assists and make me look like a fool yet again, but I think he's a fine play, obviously, because he's always a fine play. I just don't really want to pay all the way up for him as of now, just because those two mid-range expensive ones are just better values. Beyond that, you can get cheap here. I think Buzelis, depending on the Chicago news, is pretty interesting. We talked about Hunter. We talked about Anunoby. Tosani Woma, one of the many Nets you can cycle through, playing a role either off the bench or starting, I assume off the bench. Keyshawn George is back. We can celebrate that. Yeah, it's pretty gross. Like, for a huge slate, there's a lot of shit on this slate.
Oh, yeah.
And then it'll be Toppin if Siakam's out, obviously. It would be a pretty awesome value.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, the Giannis thing is, like, look at Giannis's like usage in the games here. Like, the one game he didn't have a triple-double, he still had 69 fantasy points. He has just been absolutely crushing with no Dame. I don't know, man. I think obviously you need to play guys that are providing value. Banchero does do that, but he has almost 10K. So it's not like you're getting Darius Garland, who comes in with like an amazing projection. Like Darius Garland, I feel like is a guy I do not want to fade, and I shouldn't fade. Like, you could entertain fading Evan Mobley because he's almost 9K. You can entertain fading Banchero because he's almost 10K. but like, do any of these guys really possess a 95-point upside like ceiling like Giannis does? Not really. So I think that's what we're possibly going away from here. The price is gross. The value you have to eat to get there is gross. But if like a third of the field is going to go play Banchero, if not more in single entry, I mean, certainly more in single entry, then I'm just gonna be like, okay, well, I guess maybe Banchero might crush today, but that's just not how I'm going to do my build, right? So that's just where I am. And like, really, that's my flag plant of the slate. I'm just not playing. I'm not paying for Banchero today, and I'm going to go get Giannis and or Mobley, depending on how the rest of my lineup shakes out. But you're not wrong about the rest here. After those guys, like you need to prioritize one of those guys, I think for sure, because power forward is pretty top heavy here. Pretty unlikely all three of those guys suck. Fairly unlikely two of them suck. So they are definitely the guys to go get. Chet at 7.8 against the Lakers. I mean, I think that's interesting for tourneys, just because we know he has a massive ceiling. But after that, like, it gets gross. You could always go to your Santi Hive with 5.6 there with Aldama. I think that's an okay tournament play. Keyshawn George is back. He's been missing some games, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mentioned that. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, so that's nice. I don't hate that if he's actually gonna get run, but it looks like he might be a little bit limited there. Naz Reid off the bench, 5.2K. I don't hate that for value. But yeah, it gets bad. It gets gross. Keep an eye on the status of Kelly Olynyk and see what the Pels do. Obviously, Carlo Markovic. Is it Markovic? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a T there.
He did not start in the last game, but he still had like 25 minutes off the bench. Obviously, if he starts, he would be a good value too. And you mentioned Obi Toppin, who looks really good. All right, so over at center, Giannis leads away. There's Mobley there too. Cat against Boston's just naturally nobody's going to go get him because his projection and matchup are not great. But if the Celtics end up sitting a bunch of guys in the ownership sticks, I don't think that's the worst tourney play. Price is a little bit high with Brunson back, but I mean, YOLO. Vooch is questionable. If Vooch is out, Zach Collins, even in the face of a blowout and a tough matchup, would look amazing at 3.2K. And then also Miles Turner would get a boost with no Siakam against the Wizards. The Wizards are horrendous against centers. So even though Turner has not always smashed in this spot like you would think he would, he's only 6.1K and possibly no Siakam. So I am interested there.
Yeah, I think the best play here is going to be Gobert. 6,600, playing huge minutes, putting up 20 points and 20 rebounds like every game the last handful for whatever reason. Pretty good matchup overall against Milwaukee. There's obviously foul risk with Giannis barreling into the paint all the time, but still a good price on him. Going to be chalky, but I'm okay with it. Zach Edey is still too cheap for the minutes he's playing with Brandon Clark out. Never mind getting to him, even if his salary is on the rise, still a little bit underpriced. Vooch, I like that call. Yves Missi, another value I like a little bit. His minutes have been up. New Orleans obviously tanking down the stretch, but he's been playing steady minutes, around 30 a game. Pretty good value on him. And then Jared Allen, the matchup against Chicago is literally as good as it gets, and no Mitchell means more usage for him as well. So okay with that. I like Mobley and Garland more, but Allen should be the lowest owned of that three. So I never mind getting to him. But otherwise, I agree about Giannis, about Turner, about Mobley. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, 8.4K for Onyeka. That's a big no thanks for me. The only other guy I'd mention was going to be Alexander Sarr. They keep kind of keeping him limited, but he's been playing like 30 minutes lately. Obviously, that could always change. I'm not going to play Wizards off the bench for the most part. Tristan Vukovic, anybody. But he looks good here. Pacers also like equally as bad as Wizards on the interior. So Sarr could certainly feast against Indiana. I think he's a solid price at 6.2 if you can stomach the minutes limit. As far as other punts, like Nick Claxton's back. I think the Nets have the full complement of bigs. So like really the way you want to attack Brooklyn is with the wings. Otherwise, I would mention Drew Timme. But
they don't have Day'Ron Sharp, so they're not all there.
Yeah, I suppose. So they still have Watford. They still have Claxton. So I'm not as excited about Timme as I would be. But obviously the Nets aren't really trying to win, and so they're not going to probably max Claxton. So I think Timme is in play, just not really a priority for me right now. Bobby Portis returns. That is interesting for sure. So maybe don't go race to play Kuzma and some of these other guys for the Bucks, because he's going to get some usage for sure in projected 23 minutes here. All right. Any other values you like at center, or are you ready to wrap it up?
We've gone way too long, I think.
Well, it is a big slate, sir. All right, that does it for our position by position breakdown. Let's wrap it up with our strategy and flag plant if you have one.
Yeah, as of now, with shitty value, I'm likely to go balanced with Banchero as my preferred spend. You can get Garland in that build. I just don't want to make all these punts for like shitty bulls and shitty nets, like beyond maybe a couple of them. So not getting to Giannis, he will once again be my Terry Rozier memorial fate of the day, and it could completely burn me, but I'm going back to the well with it again.
Well, I think just in general, my we're just on different sides here. Like my flag plant is anti-Banchero, pro Giannis, and I think it's all about like I am going to eat that value, and I'm just not going to play. I'm not going to play a lot on a slate that looks really volatile by nature, and we're probably going to get more news. So that's the thing. I would plan for Giannis and hope for better value. I think the Nets and Bulls value is fine enough to try in spots. I wouldn't like go crazy and play like 4 Nets or something. I would pick like 1 or 2 Nets that you feel comfortable about. If Giddey is out, then you can start feeling better about Horton Tucker. If Vooch is out, you can feel pretty good about Collins, and just hope that like they get there even if the game blows out. All right, that is going to do it for us. Hopefully this helps you out. If it does, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and come visit our Patreon and get yourself hooked up for $5.99 a month to get all of our picks and join our Discord. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.